balked, switched in. Another good ride here, and he'll come through and run an absolute cracker. He'll enjoy the 1400.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. I'm Seth Merrow, and this morning with Sully Crotty. Good morning, Sully.
Seth, good morning. How are you?
That's a rough start.
Yeah.
And it could be a rough end to the day, too. I was driving in today, and I heard it on TV last night. High wind warnings, and they say Western New York, they're saying hurricane force winds in Western New York. Yeah. But around here, it's supposed to be a little dicey, too. If you're out driving after 7 o'clock tonight, keep your eyes open because they say branches down and power lines down.
And this morning wasn't great either. It was pretty icy out there, and we're supposed to get some more ice I think later this evening. So the weather, definitely not cooperating here in New York.
But we're late in February, so we're on the upswing, as it were. But yeah, if you're out tonight, again, if you have to drive, just be aware there may be some branches down, and if there are power lines down, again, give those a wide berth and let the experts take care of that kind of stuff, because we want to see you here tomorrow for more action. As far as today, Capital OTV do want to remind you here at the Clubhouse Racebook, there are a couple of fun promotions. The Match Bet and the Naira Pick 4, those are right here at the Clubhouse Racebook this afternoon, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Again, love to see you down here. And also at the top of the program, always want to thank our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park, champions start here. A little bit later on, we will be joined by Eric Alwan from Sunland Park. They have a nice stakes triple header later on this afternoon out at Sunland, highlighted by the Mind That Bird Derby. Kind of an intriguing little 3-year-old event on the way to their Sunland Derby, which you would think would send somebody to the Kentucky Derby. But we'll talk some of that Sunland Sunday stakes action with Eric a little bit later on in the program. Before that, some stakes recaps and a little bit of handicapping. And I also wanted to hit on a couple of news items and just information of note. One of the things, this was interesting, this press release came out a couple of days ago. With the new extended Oaklawn meet, they're going to wind up their meet on Derby Day. So again, they're going a little longer this year down at Oaklawn. Closing day at Oaklawn, they will have the $300,000 Oaklawn Invitational, and the winner of that is going to get an automatic berth to the Preakness. Kind of interesting, which I think helps a race like this kick off nicely. The question mark is, it's a quick turnaround because it's essentially Derby Day, so they'll be making that same 2-week turnaround that the Derby horses may be making. But I think if you're thinking Preakness and you got a shot at $300,000, I think you go, and if you win and you get the free berth to the Preakness, you take the 2 weeks and think, hey, I get my shot at the Preakness. I get a free swing at the Preakness.
It's essentially, I never want to say this about a $300,000 race. It's essentially like the NIT tournament. You're not, you didn't make the cut to get into the big March Madness tournament, but there's still a really good tournament out there, which is the NIT. In this case, it's the race at Oaklawn just to get into the starting gate at the Preakness, which is always a really nice field. So, and then potentially you could upset the Derby winner there. So, a lot of good things there with that race leading up to the Preakness. So, and I'm a big fan of Oaklawn because I think meet. I love the Oaklawn meet.
I am kicking myself after. I've been saying it for the last 2 weeks, but the last few days, the pick fours down there have just been phenomenal and hittable. For 50 cents, you're getting 12, 1,500. The late pick 4 yesterday, I got through the first 3 legs, which included the $50 winner of the feature race. It was a Broberg horse.
Right.
You got to play Broberg. And so you get $50, and I'm going to the last race with 3 live to 3 horses. Best I could do was third. But as they come down the stretch, the winner is a Norm McKnight horse. Again, you have to pull the trigger there. I will admit I totally missed it. And so they're coming down the stretch, and I'm looking at the PPs. I said, oh, how'd I leave that one out? It was an $1,800 pick for 50 cents. And that Oaklawn meet has just been like that, and has for a while, not just this year, but there's just all kinds of value. Again, you have to search a little bit, but I mean, these are hittable. The big price there was again, it was a Broberg horse, and like a lot of meets, you have to pay attention to the Brobergs, and again, the Norm McKnights down there, Federico Villafranco. There's some trainers that certainly in any race you have to double circle them when you see them, but boy, you come up with $1,800 for 50 cents. That's a
Pretty
nice
good
afternoon.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was 1 race away. So like I said, I was kicking myself. Wanted to go back also and just had this in with me yesterday and didn't get a chance to read it on yesterday's show, but the NTRA weekly poll. I just found it interesting. I have said now, War of Will has strung a couple together, so he's okay. But otherwise, so far this Derby season, it's shaping up maybe a little bit like last year, where somebody would step up and run big, and then a few weeks later come back and not kind of validate that. So, no surprise, given what we've seen so far. The NTRA poll, and at this time of year, there's an overall poll, and then there's a 3-year-old poll. On top of the poll, Game Winner, who we haven't seen this year. But what I found interesting overall, the top 10 on the NTRA poll, 3 of the horses we haven't seen this year. Game Winner in number 1, Improbable in number 3, and Signal the Man in number 7. But the top 10 on the NTRA poll, Game Winner, War of Will jumps up to number 2 after the performance down at the fairgrounds. Improbable, Mucho Gusto, Instagram, Hidden Scroll. That one's going to be interesting to see. Signal Man, Gunmetal Gray from West Point, Tax, and Harvey Wallbanger rounds out the top 10. But again, I found it interesting that 3 of them haven't run yet this year.
Yeah, and next weekend obviously we're going to see Hidden Scroll in the Fountain of Youth, and then Game Winner's running. I believe Tampa Bay Derby weekend out in California, and I'm hearing Baffert's going to put his 2 horses head-to-head there, so it's going to be interesting to see if he runs 1-2. Obviously, that's really good for his barn, and the standings will most likely stay the same. So Tampa Bay Derby weekend, I believe they're going to be running out in California in that Grade 2 event out there. So the next couple weeks, a lot can change or a lot can stay the same on that leaderboard.
And speaking of leaderboards, I also had these stats yesterday and didn't get to them. I've updated them given yesterday's races, but I just wanted to point out, I talked a little bit about this on Friday. Irod Ortiz passed the 100-win mark for the championship meet down at Gulfstream. He's just riding lights out down there.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And I updated through yesterday. Currently, Irod Ortiz down at Gulfstream leads 105 winners. Luis Saez 84, so he's 20 ahead at this point. And Saez, the last few years, has been the guy down there. So you're 20 ahead of him. Brother Jose Ortiz leapfrogged yesterday. Tyler Gaffleone to be in the 3rd spot. Gaffleone 4th, and Ismael Jaramillo, who I like Jaramillo. He's sitting in 5th currently. But boy, Irod is just, as I say, he's lights out down. And again, he's one of those that it's at that point now where you have to go down the PPs and just circle his name and give extra consideration to anything he's on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's some races where you can get him home on a $20 horse, and then you're kicking yourselves there. But he's made up some ground since Saez has been absent with a little bit of suspension there. So everyone thought he would make up a couple races, but not get ahead of Saez by 20 races, because Saez, I believe, was up 17 or 18 on IRAD before he got suspended. So he's been riding lights out, and it seems like he's picking up 4 wins a card. Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that. Saez was on the suspension, so obviously you go to the sidelines, you're giving up a little bit of an advantage to your competition. All right, let's take a look at some stakes action. And again, we were a little bit light around the country yesterday. I think there was only a couple of graded stakes. We'll take a look at both of those. But otherwise, not too much on the agenda yesterday. But since we've been in here last, Monday's holiday card at Oaklawn, certainly worth going back and taking a look at some of that action. So I thought we'd look at the 3 stakes from Oaklawn on Monday, President's Day, highlighted by the Southwest. And this was one of those 3-year-old races that, as I say, horses had shown a little bit of ability and then kind of disappointed subsequently. It's going to be interesting to see what the winner of this one does going forward. We're going to take a look at number 6, Supersteed, 62-1, second longest price on the board. Started the career with some promise. Met up with Boldor a couple of times. I took Boldor in this race. Boldor is going to be the number 4 horse, wind up a disappointing 6th. So I had kind of the right idea, just the wrong horse. Supersteed, I thought looked good in this race, but boy, at 62-1 off a couple of duller efforts, I'm not sure what to make of this. Running second is the number 7, Sueno. Long range Toddy 10 runs third. The favorite in here at 2-1 was Cutting Humor, the 3 horse, runs 7th in the field of 11 for Todd Pletcher. And I think a lot of that was, it's Pletcher shipping over from Florida to take a shot in here. Cutting Humor had broken the maiden a couple of starts back at Gulfstream Park West, and subsequently had run second in an optional claimer. So it's a horse that there's a little bit of promise. I'm not sure the horse deserved to be favored, but in a big field, 2-1, it was a little bit of a lukewarm favorite maybe. And it was also Todd Pletcher coming over, and that may also expose a little bit the rest of the field. I mean, maybe this wasn't a strong field, and so that also just doesn't maybe bode well for Supersteed. As I say, I thought Supersteed looked good before I would jump back on his bandwagon, because again, I thought the first 2 starts of the career showed promise, but before I jump back on the bandwagon of Supersteed, I want to see one more.
Yeah, and most likely that one more is going to be probably the Arkansas Derby, you would think. So obviously a repeat of that performance in the Arkansas Derby. Supersteed's, is the real deal and should take some money into the Kentucky Derby. But as you said, the field itself was, had a little bit of question marks. A great attempt came into the race after winning a grade 3, I believe, and then some of those other horses were in that race. So I thought in the stretch out, I was with you. I thought Boulder stretching out was really going to run a big number there, but the top of the lane in the far turn, Supersteed just went into another gear and no one ran with the horse. So 62-1 there on. And the undercard of the stakes were a little bit chalky, but she's the Julian Cole front. So if you played pick 4 and the cross country pick 5, you got rewarded there with that horse, because the cross country pick 5 at Aqueduct, I believe, paid $4,300. So all in all, really nice ride. But I agree with you. I want to see one more. I want to see how the horse runs in the Arkansas Derby before I consider the horse a big contender in this really nice 3-year-old field.
And you mentioned great attempt coming out of the win in the Smarty Jones. Before that, had won the Sugar Bowl down at the Fairgrounds. Went off, excuse me, as the 7-2 second choice, last in the field of 11. The Razorback, a little bit earlier on the card, and we are going to watch the entire race so you can see John Velasquez make a nice move. Cole Front comes in for Todd Pletcher, and this was a more legitimate, to me, Pletcher favorite. 6-5. Cole Front left from the 14. That was the question mark. Mile and a 16. Watch from the 14. John Velasquez does a great job of getting this horse out and up to the front of the pack where he sits second for part of the trip, and then late opens up a little bit and then just holds on. Copper Bullet, the number 1 horse, Steve Asmussen trainee, coming in off a little bit of a dud in the Malibu, but had certainly shown some promise earlier in the career. Copper Bullet runs second, and number 9, Rated R Superstar, runs third at 79-1. But again, you see Velasquez there sitting off of the number 10 all-out blitz and having gotten the good position early from the 14 post position. That was the big question mark. Cole Front certainly coming out of a pretty good-looking win in the Mr. Prospector down at Gulfstream. Is just going to have to overcome that outside post position. Also, there was a question mark first time 2 turns. But you had a pretty good feeling here. When Velasquez got up and was kind of sitting and then was able to, I think, a relaxed second, and you see him start to make a move here, you have to feel pretty good. And as I say, subsequently opens up a little bit in the stretch and then just holds off Copper Bullet late. But again, kudos to John Velasquez for getting the horse out of the gate and finding some decent position being hung out essentially in the parking lot in that 14-hole at the start gate.
Yeah, and that turn at Oaklawn comes so quick from that starting gate. So that was a really nice job by Johnny to, as you said, get the lead. And they were going pretty quick. So for this horse to hang on, I thought that was a really nice effort as well. A really nice game effort by Colefront to win, because they went 22 and then 46, and that's pretty quick. So the wire came just in time for Colefront to win that race. And I thought Rated R Superstar at 80-1. That was kind of a really, really big gift, because Rated R Superstar is a graded stakes winner.
Yeah.
Won at Keeneland, won against some really nice horses. On Pegasus weekend, ran a really nice, credible race in the graded stakes again. So you got 80-1 there with Rated R Superstar. So, I mean, it turned out to be a really nice triple, especially with getting that $80-1 Rated R Superstar in the third spot. But again, I thought Jose ran really well on Copper Bullet there, but Johnny V and Jose were in the day before to get used to the track for this big day, and they were on 1-2 there, and really nice race. And again, Johnny V to get to the wire after quick fractions. I would say the stretching out going 2 turns went okay for the Pletcher barn there, but nice effort by Colefront.
Yeah, Colefront now an interesting player on that older scene, having stretched out plenty of options going forward. The Bayakoa for the older ladies, the fillies and mares, 1.16 grade 3. A couple $100,000 up for grabs. We'll watch the stretch run, and it will be number 6, She's a Julie, 7-5 favorite. Promise of Spring at 17-1 winds up running second, and Moonlit Garden, the number 10 horse, runs third. I like Moonlit Garden here. Can only wind up third as the 3-1 second choice. But She's a Julie gets it done for Steve Asmussen. I think when I heard Steve Asmussen after the race talk, I think the horse is named after his wife. So he was particularly pleased that the horses won, but came into the race with 4 wins and 11 starts, so now 5 for 12 overall. Tried the Alabama last year and finished second behind Eskimo Kisses right up here at Saratoga. Most recently, had given a shot to the Zia Park Oaks and is the 30-cent to $1 favorite. Ran 4th in there. That was last November. But the 4-year-old seasonal debut, pretty nice effort. We'll see what happens. As I say, there was a post-race interview with Nancy Holthus and Steve Asmussen, and Asmussen happy the horse won, but didn't seem to totally commit to being on the path to the Apple Blossom. But you would have to think, because the horse has shown some affinity over the track, may just be waiting to kind of see where Monomoy Girl goes. They may be thinking that in the back of his head, as Brad Cox has talked about the Apple Blossom. But you would kind of think She's a Julie would be on that path.
Yeah, you would definitely think so, especially if it's She's a Julie. That was a really nice effort there, and I'm glad you brought up Monomoy Girl, because that's what we're hearing. She's going to go to the Apple Blossom. So, I could see why they wouldn't want to run in the Apple Blossom against Monomoy Girl. But that, again, I thought it was a really good effort by Ricardo to win that race. I thought it was a nice job to slow down the pace just a little bit from a 23 to a 48. But I was with you. I liked Moonland Garden there in that spot. But She's a Julie was just clearly the best in that field.
All right, let's move on now to another race from last Monday, the holiday card. And we're going to take a look at the Cal Cup Derby. And we're going to take a look at this one because it's a promising 3-year-old. And it's a promising 3-year-old for our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds. We talked to Terry Finley a few weeks ago, and he said maybe take the California Chrome route and take a little shot at this California Cup Derby and their purse of $200,000 before heading on to the Open 3-year-old company. Galilean will be the number 4 horse here and go off at the 5-cent to $1 favorite. And just makes it look easy in there. You see the West Point Silks. Chart margin of 4.5. And it looks like, now they put this one in the books. They added the better part of that $200,000 purse. And it looks like Open Company ahead for this one. Has been in state bred or restricted stakes throughout the career, including the career debut. Debuted in the Barris Juvenile and won that. Second in the Golden State Juvenile in start number 2, and won the King Glorious at Los Alamitos just prior to this race, and now puts the Cal Cup Derby. So 3 for 4, all stakes races, and again, heading into open company, you would assume, next time for our friends at West Point and Jerry Hollendorfer. And it looks like they have a nice looking, and it would be interesting to see if they can continue along that California Chrome path and duplicate perhaps what he did. But it'll be fun to follow along Galilean. Nice looking little 3-year-old for West Point Thoroughbreds.
Yeah, definitely a nice looking horse there. And as you can see from the replay, the horse could have won by more than 4.5. So that horse was absolutely loaded there. And you get Hollendorfer out there, who's obviously, he speaks for himself. With the success he has over in California. So going to be excited to see and follow that horse, and best of luck to all the connections at West Point Thoroughbreds. Going to be exciting to see where the horse goes next and see how the horse runs. But I think doing the California Chrome Trail, not a bad idea. So, and looks to be off to a great start after that win.
All right, unfortunately, there are the highs and lows of racing. The high on Monday for West Point, the low yesterday in the Hal's Hope. Breaking Lucky goes off as the 9-5 favorite in the Hal's Hope at Gulfstream. Winds up running last in the field of 8 after having been up in kind of the mix. Breaking Lucky's the number 3 horse. You can see the chicklet there at the back of the pack, though, as they wind it up. But the winner, number 9, Prince Lucky. It's a Todd exacta. Prince Lucky over number 7, Coppertown. Quip, the number 5, runs third. Prince Lucky, again, the other pleasure horse, 7-1, $17 change, win by a chart margin of 6 lengths. This horse hadn't been seen since the Easy Goer at Belmont back in June, and won that race. So had a little bit of promise as a 3-year-old. This was the 4-year-old debut. So we'll see. It's only one in the books at this point, but you would think this is an interesting player perhaps for a Pletcher on the older scene, the handicap division. Coppertown bounces back after 2 duds. And Brian Nadeau and I in the handicapper support yesterday were kind of debating Coppertown and what we would get as far as odds. I thought the horse would take a little action, just with the back class and being a Todd Pletcher horse. And sure enough, the betting public made it a close-up second choice. Again, Breaking Lucky at 9-5. Coppertown was 2-1. So again, the betting public did kind of forgive the last 2, which had excuses a little bit with some gate problems. And I will note, and Todd Pletcher was a little bit disappointed. Again, Coppertown came out of the gate a little slow yesterday as well, but it was a pretty good-looking rebound after a couple of duds in the Cigar and the Fred Hooper for Coppertown running second. But Prince Lucky looked pretty good in the 4-year-old debut. Prince
Lucky definitely did look good. And Coppertown, how many times were we going to see the horse had trouble starting? Either got bumped or stumbled or something happened with the start. And Coppertown's just a horse that never gets a good start. And we were talking about that in the stakes preview because Mike actually liked Coppertown. I actually liked Prince Lucky. So, Coppertown just never gets a good start. I thought it was a good effort to run second. But Prince Lucky, I did like off the layoff. Pletcher's probably one of the best, if not the best, off the layoff, entering these horses in there. I didn't think Quip ran bad. Obviously, coming in from the Preakness, I thought it was an okay effort there to run third. So I'm excited to see how Quip runs again for the next time out. But again, Pletcher running 1-2. I need to see one more from Coppertown, and I need to see a good start before I bet the horse at 2-1. So going to be interesting to see where this horse goes next, and also where Quip goes next. But all in all, Pletcher runs 1-2. And you got the better price Pletcher home, paying about almost $18, $17 and change.
The other Pletcher. You always have to look at those. And speaking of Pletcher, and we mentioned John Velasquez earlier being out of town at Oaklawn for a couple of days last week. Did you see Velasquez go cross-state on Friday at spin-off at Tampa in the second race? A nice little 3-year-old win there for Pletcher and Velasquez, and it was notable. It's race 2 at Tampa on a Friday, and John Velasquez is over at Tampa. You knew something was up. Spinoff is one. We showed the replay yesterday. Keep your eyes on Spinoff. I'm going to be interested to see what their game plan is next. But the last couple of years, Pletcher has gone over to Tampa with horses like this at this time of year, those horses being Always Reaming and Magnum Moon the last couple of years. So Spinoff, I think, is going to be a little bit interesting going forward. All right, one more grade stake yesterday to take a look at. The Buena Vista from Santa Anita, grade 2 event for the ladies on the grass. And Basilica Vasilika, 4-5 favorite, had an 8-race win streak snap at the end of the year in the Matriarch. but then started out 2019 with a win in the megahertz, comes back to try to continue and get another nice win streak underway, and does it. Vasilika, again, the number 9 horse as the 4-5 favorite. 53-1, Streak of Luck, the number 10, runs second. Number 2, Miss Bad Behavior, runs third in here. Alicia's World, who had moved out of the barn of Chad Brown into the barn of Richard Baltus, disappoints a little bit as the 9-2 second choice, running 6th in the field of 9. But Vasilika, again, really kind of the leader of this filly and mare turf division out in Southern California.
Yeah, she definitely is. So I thought Fahan Mara, the 4-horse who ended up running last there, I'm watching that race going 22-45. I kind of knew the horse was kind of in a tough spot to hold off the closing speed of Flavian Fry and the eventual winner there. But going in that race, Fahan Mara, I think, had 6 wins over the seven starts at Santa Anita. So, a little bit disappointing there. But again, the fractions were really, really quick. It's very tough to wire fields on the turf as it is anyways. But when you run a 45-4, they're going to catch you 9 out of 10 times. So, obviously, the best horse of the race on paper did win that race at a short price. But, again, I thought Alicia's World was a little bit disappointing there, taking a little bit of money. I thought it was interesting with the morning line price. So, all in all, the best horse did win. But the 2 I thought would run big did not show up and run big at all in that race.
Yeah, Fahan Mora had, prior to this race, had shipped over and tried the boys in that Pegasus World Cup turf race and did the same thing, showed some speed and then faded to run last in the field at 10. So hopefully that trip east didn't move the horse in the wrong direction. We'll see if Fahan Mura can get a little bit of a rebound next time. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we will move on to some handicapping. We've done a little review. Now we'll do a little preview. Stay tuned. We'll give some ideas for this afternoon right after this.
It may be cold in the Northeast, but in South Florida, the action's hot. This winter, be part of the championship meet at Gulfstream Park, where the fields are deep and the payouts are big. With some of the most competitive turf racing in America, Gulfstream Park is your winter destination for the finest in championship thoroughbred horse racing. And if you're looking for the top jockeys and best trainers, you'll find them all at Gulfstream Park. So play it today. Gulfstream Park. Champions start here.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of ranch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Racing across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow Sully Crotty will give you some ideas for this afternoon, and we'll start things out taking a look at the feature today at Santa Anita. 8th race is going to be the Spring Fever, and don't forget there is thoroughbred racing available tonight at Capital OTB. Spring Fever is 6 furlongs for a purse of $100,000. These are California sired fillies and mares. Sully, your thoughts on race 8 at Santa Anita?
A short field, and we see that most of the time on Sunday afternoons. Santa Anita, the feature, a little bit short of a field. 5 horses in this field. I went with the inside 3. I went 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to try to beat the even money choice. Show it, and mow it. That's the number 1. Rafi Bejarano's going to be aboard, but I went with the 3 on top. SY Sky. Phil D'Amato sends this horse out. Joe Talamo will be aboard. Should be the pace setter in here. So with the short field, a horse that should be sitting on the lead or off the lead by a length, I think it's a really nice spot, and this horse is running the money every single time at Santa Anita. They're going to try this distance for the first time. Went 6.5, 2 starts back in a state bred allowance, and went off as the favorite against Show It and Mow It. So, I think a little bit slower up front by Joe Talamo can make this one a little bit dangerous. But I'm going to go with the 2 speed horses, the 3 and the 2. And the 2 is Coco Kisses at 8-1. Joel Rosario is up. A horse that looked great in the state bred optional claimer 2 starts back, going wire to wire. That was at Del Mar, and then came to Santa Anita. I thought ran an okay third at a big price. Ran behind Show and Amon and SY Sky. So I'm just going to try to split the 2 favorites with some speed as well. And Joel Rosario's riding great out there, 24%. He's bringing home all types of prices as well. We saw that earlier in the meet, or earlier in the week, rather. And then the one is Show and Amon. Horse that's ran in plenty of state bred and restricted stakes races, ran third in a grade 3 event at Santa Anita in October. Off a little bit of a layoff, haven't seen the horse since November, but then last time out ran January 10th and won a race. So second off the layoff for the connections are 18%. The horse looked great running an 87 buyer, which is tying the career best for Show and Amon. So obviously if a horse runs a repeat of that 87, 88, Show and Amon, it's going to be tough to beat at even money. But just going to try to split the 2 favorites with a little speed and Cocoa Kisses. So in the feature at Santa Anita today, I went 3, 2, and 1. Moving on to Aqueduct. Aqueduct race number 8 is a state-bred maiden race. 25 claimers going 6 furlongs.
You know, and I'm master of the obvious here, but I had this as a play of the day on the sheet, so I thought I'd use it this morning. I said box up and a try. 1, 3, 5, and 7, race 8 at Aqueduct. I have 7 to 5 over 8 to 5, but I thought the 2 horses I used underneath are eligible to move forward and maybe upset and win, certainly get up in that second spot, and maybe add a little bit of value to a try play in here. The field kind of also has to hold together. We have a field of 8 right now. You get a scratch, certainly you got a couple of scratches, the value gets sucked right out of this. So, again, pay a little bit of attention to that. But number 1 on top, Ramblin' Man, and underneath, My First Gal, again, 7 to 5 and 8 to 5. They look like the 2 logicals. I tilted in front of... tilted towards Ramblin' Man off the last couple of starts. Claim 2 back from a 3rd place finish. Ran 2nd off the claim. Manny Franco was on board. Those 2 stays on board today. So just on the recent good form, Manny Franco on board, I tilted slightly in favor of Ramblin' Man. My First Gal off of the last race. The last race and the number fired there is certainly good enough. You go back, there are also some pretty good numbers. So My First Gal is the one to beat. Dylan Davis on board. He's having a pretty good winter down there as well. So you have some horses in decent form with a couple of good jocks on board. Those are the 2 logicals. But underneath, Highly Likely and Here Comes Helen. I think both are lightly raced, and both look capable, as I say, of maybe moving forward and being in the mix here, potentially for an upset win, but certainly to get up in the second spot and maybe add a little bit of value to a try play. So as I say, 8th at Aqueduct, you have to take a look at the race and see if it holds together, see what the value plays out as. But I'm going to box up and a try 1, 3, 5, and 7. All right, we'll have a meeting of the minds here. We'll both take a look at race number 7 from Gulfstream, see if we agree or have a little bit of a clash of theories in this maiden special weight event, 3/4 of a mile. Sully, your thoughts in the 7th at Gulfstream?
I went 5, 7, 6, and 3. I thought the 4 was really interesting. I just left outside of my mix as well. The 4 is going out for Mark Henning, going to be the first time on a fast track. Ran okay in the slop last time out, so I left just outside of my mix. I think the 4 is a serious player, but I went with the 5. This is the first time starting for Brian Lynch, and Javier Castellano will be in the irons. Brian Lynch and Javier at the meet were winning 23% of their starts together. And in 2018-2019, they're winning 19% of their starts together. Lynch, first time out, he's only 3%, but this is a horse that has some really nice workouts. Some workouts are better than others, and especially those 2 bullet workouts we saw in the 1st of the month and then the 15th. I thought it was a really nice effort there. January 5th, I thought it was a nice work. And then December 30th was a really nice work. So I like the combination of Javier and Brian Lynch, and I like Curlin first time out with the first time starters. The number 7 horse is Eyes Reward. It's going to be the favorite in here. I don't think you're going to get the 2.5 to 1 price, but a horse that's ran well the last 3 starts has lost by half a length, 3/4 of a length, and 4 lengths respectively in the last 3 starts. Is running the money 5 or 6 times. I'm just getting a little bit of a second-itis feel with this one. Ran well in a really nice maiden special weight at Keeneland, coming from off the pace there. And then in the main special weight at Churchill Downs in November, ran a really nice race, finishing 3rd that day. So I think second off that layoff from November, I think will be good for the horse. Belsor off the layoff is 14%, so going to be a short price here. I think it's a little second-itis. And then in the third spot, the number 6 is Mocus Pocus, Irad and Joe Orsino teaming up. Jockey trainer combination there are 24% at the meet and 26% in 2018-2019. And the horse that has some decent works as well should be sitting off the pace here. Orsino 13% first time out. This is a 3-year-old filly out of Uncle Mo. So you're getting a nice price there with a good jockey trainer combination. So pretty nice 8-horse field here sprinting. I went 5, 7, 6, and 3. And Seth, what were your thoughts?
5, 3, 7, and 6. So it looks like we are on board with similar thoughts. I also put Golden Curl on top. Like you, I like Curlin as a sire of win early types. I like the workouts underneath. The dam produces sibling that took a little while to win, but was second in the career debut, so showed a little bit of life early. Golden Curl, Castellano on board, I think could come out running in the career debut. Sugar Love, by Candy Ride, nice improvement start 1 to start 2, and start 2 was at that Keeneland Fall meet. I talk about it quite a bit. I like the 2-year-old races in the fall at Churchill. I think they're very salty events, and horses can come out of those with more talent than maybe is shown on the page. And this one was a pretty good second place behind a next out winner in the last race at Churchill. So I think the 3-year-old debut bodes well. Third spot, Eyes Reward. Second, third in the last 4 starts. And the second was a nice 3-year-old debut right here at Gulfstream, where the horse took the lead and just got caught a little bit late. Mocus Pocus in the 4th spot, Irad Ortiz on board. And as I said earlier, just have to circle his name and kind of take an extra look at anything he rides at this Gulfstream meet currently. So 7th at Gulfstream. Again, we're pretty much on the same boat, just have the underneath horses flipped around a little bit. 7th at Gulfstream, 5, 3, 7, and 6. All right, the 12th at Gulfstream. State-bred optional claimers, non-winners are one other than. In race 12 at Gulfstream, they'll go a mile on the grass.
Yeah, usually in these races, these state-bred optional claimers going 2 turns on the turf. You can get a price home here, and you're getting I like the 8 at 5 to 1 on top. I went 8, 10, 1, and 7. I think the 1 is a little vulnerable on the rail there, but it should be the pace setter in here. But I went with the 8 on top. A horse that's been switching barns twice in the career. 2018 was not so kind to this one. This horse ran 4th majority of the time, but this one had a nice, I thought it was a decent little run there as the favorite. Ran 5th, and then switching barns from Patrick Reynolds. A horse that has a nice closing speed. Again, I thought the 5th place effort was not bad last time out. I thought they went very, very slow. I think cutting back for this one, getting back on the grass will be good for this horse. This horse ran well in New York, ran well at Belmont on July 5th, then went to Saratoga. I thought the 4th place effort on a good surface in an optional claiming race against some pretty nice horses was a really nice effort there. So I think if this horse can revert back to those high 70s, especially that Buyer Best 89, 3 starts back, this one is going to be very, very dangerous here. And excited to see how this horse does running twice in a row on a firm turf course, because usually the last 3 starts in New York before heading to Florida, this horse was on a good service and ran well. So I'm going to use Zap Daddy on top at 5 to 1. The number 10 horse is Blue Loop. 7 to 2 on the morning line. This horse is just very, very balanced. We saw earlier in the career this horse try to get to the lead, but the last couple, this horse has been sitting off the pace. Last time out was 7 lengths off the pace, finished 3rd for Mike Maker. Jose Ortiz will be aboard. So if the pace is quick, the number 10 should be sitting right off the pace and has a closing kick. Should get a jump on those closing kick horses, because this horse also has a nice closing kick, as we have seen from previous starts, including 3 starts back at Gulfstream on the dirt. I like this. They're going to run at the mile distance on the turf for the 3rd straight time with the number 10 Blue Loot in the 2nd spot. And then the 1 is Expected Ruler. A little short on the morning line, 5 to 2. I get as the pace setter here with Javier Castellano. But, I thought the horse couldn't get it done a couple starts back, especially early in the career, running slow starts, slow half miles. I know it was a stakes race, but should have got home in that race. Has a little bit of second-itis, keeps switching barns off the claim. So for me, the short price, I'm going to try to beat. But again, Javier can really slow down the pace, because there's not much other speed in here besides the number 5 and then the number 4. So for me, I'm going to go with off the pace here. I went 8, 10, 1, and 7 in the 12th at Gulfstream. And Seth will look at race number 8 at Gulfstream Park. Race 8 is a maiden special weight. They're going 1 mile on the grass.
I have it 1, 2, 4, and 7. Chad Brown, Kolarovich, if you listen to me enough, you know that almost anything they send out first time, I'm going to jump on board. I think they're win early connections. They like to win early and very often do, and this one comes in with some decent workouts, including that February 9th workout, which I think tips their hand that the horse will be ready in debut. But flip at 8-1 on the morning line underneath. Irod Ortiz on board. Bill Mott Firster by Curlin from a Malibu Moon Mare. I think this horse may be a little bit interesting in debut. I go back to the February 2nd workout. I find it intriguing that they went 7 furlongs, and in fact, there are a couple of those 7 furlong workouts underneath. And just when somebody does something a little bit unusual like that, it attracts attention. And Bill Mott, I would say much of the career was not necessarily known for firsters, but he can, and certainly you look at the Daily Racing Form stats, he does at a, not an overwhelming rate, but at a respectable rate, get firsters under the wire. And so I think Flip will be a player. Ready and Rich has had plenty of opportunities, hasn't gotten it done, but has been 8 times second or third in 9 career starts, so certainly has to be considered. And Kieran McLaughlin has Speightstown Firster on a spree. Jose Ortiz on board, so you have potent connections with a horse sired by a prominent win early type in Speightstown. So for me in the 8th at Gulfstream, 1, 2, 4, and 7. All right, we'll head to a break. When we come back, we'll shift our attention to Sunland Park. Eric Alwan will join us, and we'll talk the stakes triple header at Sunland on Sunday afternoon. Stay tuned.
The road to the Kentucky Derby ends with the most exciting 2 minutes in racing, but getting there begins long before then. With 34 prep races that span 15 tracks, the best place to watch, wager, and win is Capital OTB and OTB TV. Upcoming Derby prep races include the Gotham from Aqueduct, the Tampa Bay Derby, and the San Felipe from Santa Anita. So for in-depth coverage and expert analysis of all the Derby prep races, stay with Capital OTB and OTB TV.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Not at the track and not near a computer? No problem. Wager with Capital OTB's Touchtone Wagering System and you'll never get shut out again. Capital OTB's Touchtone Wagering System is quick, simple to use, and guarantees your wagers are accurate and placed on time. For more information, visit CapitalOTB.com or call Capital OTB's customer service hotline at 800-292-BETS. Capital OTB's Touchtone Wagering System. Never get shut out again.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow and Sully Crotty in the studio. And as promised before the break, on a nice stakes day out at Sunland Park, a nice triple header of stakes races highlighted by the Mind That Bird Derby. I thought we'd reach out to Eric Alwan from Sunland Park and get a little preview of the action for Sunday afternoon. Eric, good morning.
Good morning, Seth.
Happy to have you
on. Letting me on the show.
Happy to have you on the show to talk a little bit about what is a very nice stakes card with some intriguing horses that'll be fun to kind of key on this afternoon. Before we get into the action, just give us a little update. What's the weather look like out in your part of New Mexico today?
It's been kind of cold, but nothing to your guys' standards in New York. But it's very sunny, and it's going to be beautiful conditions. They might actually reach 70.
That's what we like
and
to
little
hear.
to no wind.
Yeah, so we'll live vicariously watching you guys because
Yes.
it's not 70 here. Let's take a look. Let's kind of work our way back from the highlight of the day, the Mind That Bird Derby, $100,000 up for grabs for the 3-year-olds going a mile and a 16th, again on their path to the Sunland Derby a little later in the season. And Eric, I agree with the morning line in that I think Wicked Indeed probably will be the favorite. Steve Asmussen, runner. Bettors just seem to key on those buyer figures, and on the improving buyer numbers, Wicked Indeed does look like to have an edge. But the only win was the Maiden Breaker, ran 3rd and then 4th in the Lecomte. So I don't think this horse is invincible. I pulled up a replay of the Turfway Park November 30th maiden special win of number 3, One Flew South. Subsequently moves into the barn of Doug O'Neill out in Southern California, and I found it interesting that Doug O'Neill decides, well, let's get the 3-year-old debut in the Mind That Bird Derby. So One Flew South is interesting to me. Hustle Up, I always think these kind of races, you have to put a hometown horse in the mix, and Hustle Up to me with the early speed looks also a little bit interesting. What are your thoughts on the Mind That Bird Derby?
I took a look at that replay too, Seth, last night on One Flew South, and wow.
Yeah.
I was impressed. Multiple gear changes, great early speed. There was a private purchase of this horse, too, by the way. So I think a lot of money was shelled out for One Flew South after that debut win. And, he changed hands and changed from Wesley Ward to Doug O'Neill, 2 super trainers. But what I found more interesting is the horses that he beat in that little maiden race. One of them would go on to set the pace and have the lead into the top of the stretch of the Swale at Gulfstream, and that was High Crime.
Yeah.
And Zipto, the 3rd-place finisher, maybe not as good, but still won his subsequent next race. So, if you're trying to beat that favorite, Wicked Indeed, why not try with this One Flew South? Doug O'Neill's no stranger to Sunland. He won what was called the WinStar Derby, which was the Sunland Derby, twice in its inaugural running with Excessive Pleasure, and then he won it again with Thor's Echo. So he's always kept us in mind, He just hasn't, had a winner in the Sunland Derby in a while. But I'm most intrigued, about this One Flew South. And there are no more fresh Giants Causeways, right? He's passed away. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, I see that this horse could be enough of a, have enough stick to hold on. Be his first time 2-turning. And then you mentioned that New Mexico bred. I see him as the rabbit in this race. He's a really nice New Mexico bred, but I think he's going to be kind of up against it. Even though, Todd Fincher, his trainer, won the Sunland Derby last year with Runaway Ghost, who we'll be talking about, I guess, in a few moments. But Hustle Up's going to be tested for class today, that's for sure.
And for folks who you mentioned Todd Fincher, and clearly a high percentage guy out there. For folks who may be jumping into Sunland this afternoon and don't follow normally, what are some of the names on the undercard as far as the trainers and jockeys locally that people may want to key on?
Henry Dominguez is another terrific trainer here, locally. And Justin Evans, a juggernaut who's just recently won his 2000th career thoroughbred win about a week ago. And both those gentlemen will have horses running, in the undercard. They're both terrific trainers. Justin's won the Sunland title, 5 of the last 6 years.
Let's move on to the Island Fashion. The 3-year-old filly's going a mile. The one of the other stakes races on the card. It's race 8. Parade of Roses, KP Slickum, Figure all come out of 1, 2, 3 finishes in the Borderplex. So they're clearly all very interesting. But I pulled up for a replay for folks to look at. Sunland Park, February 3rd, so kind of a fairly quick turnaround in this day and age. I get 3 weeks, but career debut, maiden breaker for Jamaican Sense. Jamaican Sense is going to be the number 8 horse in here and get it done pretty nicely in the career debut for the aforementioned Todd Fincher. I like Golden Sense runners as being win early types. This one lives up to it at 5-1. Again, this is a little bit of a step up, but I don't think this is a a field of world beaters. I think this horse is interesting at a 15-1 morning line. So Jamaican Sense is kind of the intriguing play for me. But what are your thoughts in the Island Fashion?
She is, Seth. You know, she wasn't too highly thought of by Todd, as you can tell by the odds, that she got away as almost 5-1 in the maiden breaking win. It wasn't one of my favorite maiden special weights.
Okay.
I've had so far this year. I would turn a little more attention to this horse called Victim of Love, you know, who I really thought she broke her maiden at the She got her number taken down for, you know, just bearing in ever so slightly top of the stretch. But she demolished a group of maidens by 12 lengths about a month ago. And if you can do your breeding research on her, she's related to some really good routers. And I think that Henry Dominguez may have a budding star on his hands with this Victim of Love. And if you believe in buyers, well, that maiden win did get a 70 buyer, which pretty much is the best you'll find in this group of fillies. And she's two-turn tested. She's gone a mile the last couple of times. I think she's the one that the race might go through. I do like that KP Slickum that you mentioned, because I think that the distance gets longer. She's shown a real desire to go longer. A little unlucky to not have won that Borderplex. And then you've got the two Asmussen fillies with Backflash and Blessings First. You know, they're obviously not Asmussen's top fillies that he's got in his mega barn, but they're coming out of Texas and won one on the turf, I believe, at Houston. That was Backflash, and the other was also in that race too. So kind of interesting. They're both royally bred too. But if I can get 12-1 on Victim of Love, I'm taking it right now.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But there's no way that's going to happen. No way.
As you were talking, I was looking, and the first thing I looked at also was 12-1. But then as I looked again, as I said earlier, the betting public loves those buyer numbers. And, I don't think this horse is going to go down to chalk or anything, but I'm not sure we'll get that 12-1. But I may have to box it up with my horse and see if we can get a little something in there and maybe get a little exacta play. All right, let's take a look a little earlier. Curribot, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Curribot. He was a son of Little Current, and probably one of the great handicap stars in New Mexico in the early 80s.
Yeah. And that's also on the stakes card. And just notable here, it's a field of 7 scheduled, but as I said, there are some intriguing horses on the card, and one of them is Runaway Ghost. And folks may remember this horse from last year. Sunland based, and was headed to the Kentucky Derby and then wound up with a little bit of a ding. And so laid off after winning the Sunland Derby, laid off until February 2nd in the Fort Bliss, and we're going to take a look at that. The Fort Bliss on February 2nd, Runaway Ghost as the 3-5 favorite, the number 6 horse wins. This was the seasonal debut, the 4-year-old debut. Had been off the better part of a year, 11 months. Pretty good-looking comeback, and clearly Runaway Ghost is going to be the one to beat in the 7th today at Sunland.
Yeah, Seth, he's 3 for 4 over Sunland soil, and to show you how great a trainer Todd Fincher is, this horse had a cannonbone fracture.
Yeah.
I memean, he got over it, and Todd's great off the layoff, great first time out, and Runaway Ghost pops a 95 buyer, 10 points higher than what he got winning the Sunland Derby. He's an amazing horse, just loves Sunland, and he's going to attract a lot of money. I think if you're going to try to beat him, you need to do it today. And the horse that could do it, in my mind, a fresh horse that was once sold for $50,000. Of course, the Evans Group and his owners got him for a lot less than that. But Pendleton really impressed me in New Mexico races. It's won 3 of 4 for Evans since, this horse ran at Saratoga as a baby in 2017. Got a really good cruising speed. And I think he holds the track record for a mile at Zia, the racetrack at Hobbs. And he darn near did that same time when he won his allowance at Sunland. He'll be getting 5 pounds over Runaway Ghost, and does have the best jockey on the ground. This Luis Contreras, who started his career at Sunland years back and turned out to be a great woodbine rider, has spent the whole winter here. He's winning races at about a 38% clip. But there's something, I think, special about Pendleton. He's going to have to be special if he's going to be able to hold off Runaway Ghost.
Yeah, and that bullet workout on the 15th kind of steps out, too, for Pendleton, a 59 flat. And as you say, Contreras, we head up to Woodbine a couple of times every year for the mile and the Queen's Plate, and he's one of the guys you have to circle when they're up at Woodbine. So this is his wintertime base, I guess.
For the first time. Usually you would just spend like maybe a week or two here, and maybe go to Gulfstream, but he has done so fabulous well. I mean, he's making a lot of money here, you know.
And
sometimes it's better to be a big fish in a little pond.
And am I correct now that I'm thinking about it? You got our buddy Geller down there announcing, right?
Oh, he's been here.
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah,
20
sure.
Years. Yeah.
When we're up there in the press box, we're sitting right next to him, and he comes out and chats all the time. So
one of the world's best, that's for sure.
Eric, we appreciate the visit this morning. Certainly wish you a lot of good luck this afternoon. As I said, it's going to be interesting on the 3-year-old scene on the way to the Sunland Derby, see how the Mind That Bird Derby shakes out. And also I'm interested to see Runaway Ghost this afternoon as well. But as I say, wish you and everyone there a lot of good luck. Appreciate the visit. We'll talk again.
Thanks, Seth. Take care.
Again, that's this afternoon at Sunland Park, a nice triple header of stakes action. Keep that in mind. That'll be towards the end. I'm just looking. What were the post times? I think we're talking our time. So 3:26, the 7th race. 5:26. We'll kick things off with that stakes action, and the Mind That Bird Derby will go off at about 6:18 our time. So keep that in mind for a little later on this afternoon, early evening. I pulled up also. We mentioned earlier. How well Irad Ortiz is doing down at Gulfstream. Just wanted to alert people at this point in the Aqueduct season. Mentioned it earlier as I was looking at that Aqueduct race for the handicapping segment. Manny Franco currently in the lead. 67 wins for Franco at the current Aqueduct meet. Junior Alvarado 53. So pretty good margin for Manny Franco. But I mentioned also Dylan Davis having a pretty good meet. He's sitting third. Jose Lescano fourth, and Raylu Gutierrez fifth in there. But Manny Franco, pretty nice winter with some, I don't know, I was going to say fresh faces, different faces than obviously you would see in the summertime with the big guys going down to Florida for the most part. So it's interesting to see how it shakes up. Eric Cancel is sitting sixth. Rajiv Murrah, and I agree. If you listened yesterday, I don't know if it was the pregame or during the, it was the pregame because it was between Serling and Anthony Stabile. Andy said Rajiv is kind of back on his game now after, really he was on the sidelines for a long time with a serious injury, and he's really kind of getting back in, and I think it was a good move for him, stay in New York and take advantage of the situation up there. So he's sitting seventh right now in the standings. But Manny Franco, pretty good winter down in New York.
Definitely for Manny, and I believe last year he was down in Florida as well. Jose Lescano was down in Florida as well. So it's nice to see some of them stay up in New York year round. It's obviously better for the New York racing, and it's more competitive races. So obviously Junior started out red hot, and so he's having a great meet, as you said. But I did see a tweet today. I think Kendrick Carmouche returned today from his injury at Kentucky Downs. So it's going to be, we wish him all safe trips and the best of luck.
Had him on up at Saratoga. Fun, big smile, nice guy.
I think I saw that. He's riding in a couple races today at Aqueduct. So it's going to be good to see him back in the saddle.
And the Murrah, who was Romero
yes.
came back a couple of days ago from a spell down in Florida. So nice to see, some of these folks who had gone to the sidelines coming back and getting back in the saddle and being all right, because certainly in those situations, that's what we root for. All right, do want to remind you again, here at the Clubhouse Racebook today, plenty of racing action, obviously, this afternoon. Come down. You can also watch the sports as well, maybe some college basketball or whatnot. I've sworn off college basketball today after Syracuse last night. Man, I didn't get to that last couple. You knew when they
played well.
That 7-point run you knew was not going to bode well. But again, come on down to the clubhouse, watch the racing, the sports action, and two promotions this afternoon. The NYRA Pick 4 and the Match Bet should be a lot of fun. Swing on down, Clubhouse Racebook this afternoon, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. I want to thank our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park, champions start here. Seth Merrow Sully Crotty on a Sunday morning, racing across America. Hopefully we gave you some good info, some reviews of stakes action to key on horses maybe going forward. Coal Front looked pretty good last Monday in the Razorback. Galilean for our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds in the Cal Cup Derby, so it's fun to go back and take a look at some of those races, and maybe more importantly, hopefully we gave out some good ideas. That 7th at the 5 in race 7. Now with the meeting of the minds, I'm going to be interested to see if we hit on that one at Gulfstream Park. But Sully, good luck this afternoon.
Thanks, Seth. You too.
And good luck to all of you. We'll see you. I'll be back in an hour and a half or so with OTB Live for a Sunday afternoon. So we'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.